Hi guys, welcome back. This is day 4 on our journey to take an anonymous chat mobile app from idea to App Store. So last time we looked at adding mobile design icons and animation to our app. Today we will continue by improving our mobile app project by adding some material design, I think it's called. So some material design UI to our app, and also adding some logging and error reporting. So let's hop right in. So this is where we left off. We have a simple app. We've added some material design icons and some animations. Now let's first look at integrating a I can't remember what it's called, so let's have a look. Let's go to NuGet package. I think it's Xamarin Material Visual Material it's called. So let me explain what it does. This adds a material look to our application. So if let's first install it. So this is our NuGet package. So if you look at the NuGet package itself, here in the description you'll have a link to the project. Xamarin Forms Visual Material, that's it. So project, if I click on that, it's gonna let me install it. I'll have a look. So I'll install in all 3 of our projects. We're gonna okay that, we're gonna accept it. So that should install it, shouldn't it? Let's have a look. So I rebuilt our app just to confirm we don't have any errors now that we've installed this new package. Let's wait a few seconds till it finishes. There we go. So everything succeeded. Let's run our app and I'll show you what this visual material is going to do. So the easiest way to see this is by using a button. Basically it's gonna add that material ripple effect to our button. So I'm just gonna add one on our main page so you can see how it looks without enabling that package, and then we can see how it looks with the package. So I'm just gonna add a button here. I'm gonna center it. We're gonna say the text click me, and the background color it's gonna be blue. Let's reload our app. And see that button come here. So there it is, it's our button. If I click on it, you can see it just slowly the color changes slightly in the background. Now if we go to visual and we do material, and we rebuild the app, this adds a ripple animation when someone clicks on the button itself. And it's that simple, just adding the NuGet package and setting the visual keyword here to material at the top. So let's have a look. So you see it rounded the corners as well. It made the text what's it called, capitalized, yeah, with capital letters, and when you click on it, it has that ripple effect. So that's in a nutshell how we add our visual material design to our app. Now next, let's look at actually creating our design color, so defining our design color that we want to use for the app. So in our first day, I showed you that there was a what's this called, a blog on how to design delightful dark themes, and in here it has a few colors, and it specifically says never use full dark or full white colors, because those two colors don't exist in the natural world and our eyes can't actually perceive them. So always use slightly lighter dark colors and darker whites. So we're gonna save all of these values here for our dark colors in a actual class, in a static class, and then we can reference that class everywhere within our app. So let's just create a new class in here. We'll call it app colors. Actually, we could go in the chat settings here. We have the icon fonts. We could create another public class here. So public static class app colors. There we go. So in here we're gonna create a few colors. So public static color, and we're gonna import the Xamarin Forms color. So I'll just do Control and dot to bring up our suggestions here, and I'm gonna select using Xamarin Forms namespace. So this will be our, let's see what colors we have. So we have the overflow, which is our darkest color, and I'm gonna, what should we call this? And I'll just call it dark for now. We're gonna set it as a property, and we'll also give it a default value of color from hex. And we're gonna add that exact hex value, which was 010101. So that's our darkest color. I'll just call it darkest. Now the other one is gonna be our dark base, and I'm gonna give it the exact same name. So let's dark base. This one is a 1F2023. So 1F2023. What's next? We're gonna use these two. So dark overlay dark and dark. We'll just call them overlay dark and overlay light. It's a dark base. So overlay dark color from hex. What was the overlay dark? That was 2D to F34. 2D to F34. Next one will be overlay light. This one was 383B40. 383B40. And there's one last one, which is surface. So we have dark base, let's call this dark surface. And this one was 2729D. That's 2729. What is it again? 27292D. So these are our dark colors that we're gonna use. One other color we need to set up will be our text color, which will set it to white. So public static color, this will be our text color. Let's say text color light, in case we want a text color dark as well, or any other text color. So color from hex, I'm gonna set this to what is white? I think that's FF. So that's our lightest white, and we're gonna give it an opacity of 0.9 or 0.65. I've seen, there we go. So it says, there it is. So white is FF. That's our hex color, and we're gonna use 65% opacity on our darkest background and 90% opacity on those on our lighter background colors, dark background colors. So the overlay light, we're going to use a 90%. If we have a surface or a base or an overflow, we're going to use a 65%. So it's you can read it easier. Actually, I think you can see the difference in opacity in here. So the ones at the top have a 90% opacity, and the one underneath, you can see it's a bit darker, which is a 65% opacity, and that looks fairly good. One last thing that I want to do, so we have our dark colors and our text color. I just want to get some other colors that we can use in our app, and for that I'll just go to Adobe Color. I think is a good site, because it gives us that's Bing is not the best search engine. Let's go to google.com. Yes, we agree. So if we do Adobe Color here, there we go, first search result. And you wonder why people don't use Bing. So in here, as you can see, we can select a color, and it gives us different hues based on the selected color. So I want to select a darker blue, I think. Do we want, let's use monochromatic, and like I mentioned, a darker blue. And I think we're gonna select a few to save. Let's just save this one for now. So I'm gonna add it here, public static color dark blue. Let's select a lighter blue as well. Which one? This one looks like it may look good on our black background. So actually I'm gonna copy and paste this. I'm gonna change that to light. Oh, I haven't ended that, and we're gonna copy the hex value as well. So light blue in here, and I'm gonna remove that one. And if I do Control KD, that will align all of my code, that will format all of my code. So that's Control KD to format your Visual Studio C# code. Now that we have our color set, let's use them in the app. So on our loading page, In here we want to import the namespace, and the way we do is adding it here at the top. So we need the xmlns keyword. We'll give it a name, which is colors, and we need to specify the namespace. Oh. So CLR namespace, and I can just copy the namespace here, which is the chat settings. Will that accept it? Let's have a look. So the way we use the settings is, so we use the static keyword, and then we select the colors namespace, and we should have access to our app colors dot. Okay, that hasn't added, so we might also need to add the assembly. So you see here at the top it has the namespace and the assembly afterwards, but our assembly is just the name of the project, which is the chat. So let's add that in, not in here but in here. So assembly will have the chat. Namespace, yes. Why doesn't it? Pick that up. Invalid parameter name. CLR namespace. Have I misspelled something here? I misspelled namespace then. So let's have a look here if that, yeah. So now it will pick up our actual color. So we want to actually use the surface, the dark surface. So that will be our background color, our dark surface. And we also want to change, you can see it, but we have a color here at the top, which is actually being taken from our styles colors here. So this color primary dark, we want to change that to our actual overflow in here, which is 010101. So let's do that at 010101. So that's our loading page. Let's also change our main page. So same thing, we want to add the colors namespace in our main page here at the top, and we'll also want to set the background color the same to our dark surface. Now we can easily set the background button. Let's just do a static keyword and then do colors dot, we can use a overlay dark, and the text I'm gonna set it to same, and app colors dot text color light. So in this way, if we ever want to change the look and feel of our app, we can easily do so by changing the actual values here, or we could pull these values from a database. What hasn't it found? Oh, this is the text. No, yeah. So this is click me, but the text color will be text color light. So let's have a look how that will look. We need to change the background color in here as well, but we'll do it in due time. So this is how our page looks. We will need to get rid of this top navigation page, and we can easily do that by saying navigation page in here that has navigation bar, and we set that to false. If we refresh, there is our simple page with a button right in the middle. Now let's say later down the line, or yeah, sometime in the future, we will want to change the colors of this app. We can easily pull this from a database, or just say once initialized, we can go and let's say the chat settings, set dot. Why doesn't it? Well, let's just pull this in. So app colors, using the chat settings namespace dot text color light will be a color dot light blue later down the line. And when we run this, this will just pick our button text color to the color we set it here. There you go. So that's our light blue color, whereas previously it was white as a default. So that's our colors and our color scheme. We can now start building our apps using the colors we have defined here. But before we do, let's first have a look at actually logging and crash reporting. So if you remember, in our first day we created an account on App Center. So if I sign in with our Microsoft account, let's try again. So AverageJoeDev at .com. Why is it create account? No, we don't want to create an account. We want to log in. Sign in. There we go. Now we want to skip this. Yes, we'll stay signed in. No, thank you for now. So in here we created our Android and iOS apps. So if we go in one of these apps, you can see here we have a Xamarin Forms tab, and it shows us how we can install this in our application, so we can use analytics and crashes, and it will just display in here, and I will show you just a minute. So first thing we need to do is install the App Center NuGet packages. So let's do that first. App Center. Let's install that. So it installs App Center into all of our projects. I believe that crashes and analytics are included in App Center. Let's have a look. It doesn't say it, but I'm fairly sure it is. So we'll need to initialize App Center in our app XAML.cs. in here when the app first loads. So let's do that here. Actually it gives us the code right here. So when the app loads, we need to initialize this, and this, because I'm in the Android project, it gives us our Android key already populated. So if I go in here, copy this in our initialized app, I will just do a control dot to import the namespace, and let's see if analytics, no, so analytics and crashes are not installed by default. So let's go back to our NuGet package and install center analytics and crashes as well. So we're going to install analytics. Okay, accept, and we're going to install the crashes one as well. Okay, let's go back to our app.xaml, and if I do a control dot to bring up our I forget what it's called, tooltip, there we go. So we can import analytics, and if I do a control dot on crashes, it will give us a tooltip to import the crashes namespace as well. Now we don't use universal Windows player, and I can remove that, and we just need to get our iOS key as well in here. So let's go back to our project, go back here at the top, go into our iOS project. If I click on Xamarin Forms, we'll have our iOS key here, and I just need to copy the key, not the whole project, and just paste it in here. There we go. So now our App Center has been set up for both iOS and Android project, and let me give you a quick example on how this works. I'll just go to our loading page, and while this gets loaded, I can just go and say, actually I forgot how I can diagnose. So we can track crashes by using the crashes that track error and pass in the exception. And we can also pass in properties if we use a dictionary of string and string. So that's issues, but we want analytics. Let's use a get started guide. Events, log flow, no. Crashes that generate this crash. Okay, so I'm gonna use this arrow just to show you how we can capture crashes, but first let's see. I'm pretty sure crashes. Let's see what else this was. So analytics, let's see, analytics dot track event. What is this? Let's see, app has just been started at, and we can just give it the date and time in here. So date time dot now, and it needs a, well, it's it accepts a dictionary of string as properties, but we can set that as null for now. If we wanted to add any more properties, so we could say dictionary of string and the string log properties in the dictionary, and we can just add log properties dot add, and this would be let's see, loading page view model, that will be our page, and actually our property will be page name, and the name will be our loading page. And we can just add this as a property in here. So let's see how this works. If I just run the app, we should be able to see this in our Android app under analytics here. So it's still compiling. Let's give it a second. And then we're gonna see how the crashes works as well for App Center. And this is very good that it gives you a database where you can monitor and keep all of your logs and all of your crashes for free. You don't have to App Center doesn't have any subscription, or you don't have to pay anything for these services, which is, from my perspective, a very good deal, especially if you don't want to spend any money. So that's run. Let's have a look in here. So this is our Android app, and we should have something under analytics. There we go. We have something in here. Let's see what we do. So we have an event, I believe. Oh, there we go. So analytics, track event, track your first event. This wasn't here last time when I looked, but there we go. Monthly devices, emulator, track events. Did we do a track event? We did a track event, yes. So that should be under events, one would think. Check out log flow to see if the events were correctly tracked. Or waiting data from your app. Okay, let's assume that it's tracking something for the sole purpose that it's actually added something in here, but I suspect that this specific overview is just because we've subscribed to the app itself, and it just said, yeah, one user has just started your app on an emulator as well. If we go to log, yeah, that's still loading. Let's see if we have better luck with our actual crashes. So first thing we want to do, let's cancel this out, and let's go to our main page view model in here. So when this first initializes, let's add an event. So on our main page, I think we have a button. There we go, we have a button. So when we click this button, let's just tell our app to log a crash report. So I'm gonna add a command here, and I'm gonna bind it to a button clicked command in the backend. Now we still have to create this command here in the view model, so let's do that. I'm gonna have a private delegate command. We'll call it what did we call the one on our main page? Button clicked. So let's give it the same name. So button clicked. And we're gonna create a public delegate command as well, button clicked, which will go to our private button clicked. Let's wait because Visual Studio just had a hiccup. So button clicked, and if this is null, we're gonna create a new delegate command in here, and it's gonna be an async command, execute button clicked So we don't have this yet, so let's do a control plus, which will bring us our tooltip. And if I hit enter, that's gonna create my private task in here. So this I'm gonna set this to asynchronous, and we're gonna do a try catch. So I'm gonna try and we're gonna catch the exception, and we're actually gonna track this exception in here. So if I do a control plus on crashes, that will import our namespace. Let's do something like var test is equal to 10 divided by 0. That should, does it allow me? Division by constant 0 doesn't allow me, but can I do an int value is equal to 0 and then just divided by this value? There we go. So this should crash our app when we click the button. So let's just add a breakpoint here to confirm that when we click the button it just goes in here, and in here just to confirm that it's gonna crash our app when we divide by 0. There we go. So I press on the button, our first breakpoint got triggered, because that means it's going to execute. If I hit continue at the top, it divided by 0 and it went right through and probably said attempted divide by 0. So if I continue through that, nothing has happened because we caught the exception, so it doesn't crash our app. If we tried to divide by 0 without doing a try catch block, that would have just crashed our app, and we're gonna test that in a minute. But let's see if it added anything under diagnostics in here, and it might actually take a while to come back. Let's see under analytics if we have anything. There we go. So it took a while, but we do have the event that we tracked previously. Actually, let's check the time. It's 10:35. I think it's the one that we just did now under diagnostics. So usually it should, there we go. So I just refreshed. It takes a while to bring this up, and this is our well, it's our crash, but it's our handled crash, our exception which we caught. Now if I cancel that out and I just comment out the try catch block, this will crash our app when we click on the button, and that will come in here not as a error but as a crash. So you see here we have a crashes section and an errors section. The errors are the ones that are handled, so the one that we catch in a try catch block, and the crashes are the ones that we don't handle, that just crash our app instantly. And it's a good way to monitor our app to see if we actually have any pieces of code that are just gonna crash, and we can go back. So if I just click on that, there you go, that divide by 0 just crashed our app completely. It's probably gonna take a few seconds for our crash report to come back in here, but actually there you go, attempt divide by 0. We can continue that, and that crashed our app. Now I'm curious to see if that will actually come in here, because we ran the app in debug mode, and like you've seen, it just gave us an error saying yeah, divide by 0, exception found. One thing we can try, I think they gave us a piece of code to actually try the crash, so let's try that out. I can't remember exactly. I think it was crashes.test generate test crash. There we go. So if we run it again and click on the button, that will run this, which will generate a test crash for us. But I'm still want to see if that came through. So that hasn't come through, but if it were in release, so if the app were actually on the Play Store, that would have come through as a crash, because the app actually crashed for us, but because it was in debug mode, it was just handled by Visual Studio. So if I click on the button, test crash generated. An exception, we had the same error. I'm not sure if that will come through either, because that was caught by Visual Studio as well. But what we can do is we can set the app in release mode. I can uninstall the app from our emulator, and if I run it again, that should install it as if it were installed on your app, on your mobile phone, from the App Store. Let's just confirm if that's come through. That has actually. So actually this is our first crash that came through. So you can see it's the attempted to divide by 0. It just took a few good minutes to come through, but it did come through in the end. And it does give us a bit of information in here as well. Let's see. So it does say that it's from our main page view model, and it's from the execute button click command. So just from this information alone, if we were to find a crash report, we would know where to go and look, which is yeah, like I mentioned, it's a very good way to track your errors and crashes for an app, and it's absolutely free. There's no charge involved. So we've run the app in release mode. If I just click on this should just crash, shouldn't it? It should, but it doesn't. That's odd. So this handled the crash. Let's have another test. Let's do a divide by 0. That usually crashes anything it can. So let's close this app. I'll run the app again in release, and let's see. So I'm expecting the app to actually crash completely and close, go in the background. That's what I would expect from a crash. Let's refresh this. Yeah, the other crashes haven't come through just yet, but like we've seen, it takes a few minutes to get here. That's not a problem. There we go. That's loading. There we go. So that's what I would expect from a crash. The app just closed completely. So whenever in doubt, just divide by 0. So that's our logging and error reporting. Now one thing we'll need to do, and let me show you. So when we're building a mobile app, we'll usually use asynchronous commands to always run our background processes, or either our syncing or animations, or whatever we'll use. Now all mobile applications only have one main thread, and if ever two commands or two processes try to access that one thread at the same time, the app will crash. So one thing to get around that is we're gonna use a variable, a boolean variable, to check every time we run any task or any function, and that will be, so I'm gonna set this a boolean. We're gonna call it is busy. So by default this gets a false value when you first instantiate it, and every time we run a command we're gonna say if is busy, then we're gonna return. so we're not gonna do anything. Now if it's not busy, we're gonna set the is busy to true, and then we'll do a try catch block, and finally where we'll set our is busy to false again. Now what this finally does in our try catch block, even if the app fails or succeeds, it will always run the finally. So in this way you always make sure that is busy is always set back to false, and irrespective if your command or your task runs, it crashes or anything happens, as long it will always set this is busy to false. So this this piece of code we'll always need to use whenever we try to do anything, especially with the UI thread. Even if we're using if we're using background threads and we're not updating anything on the UI, because that's where the UI thread gets accessed. If you wanna do an animation, if you wanna change some text, if you wanna press a button, that's your UI thread that needs to be updated. So whenever we do anything on the UI thread, we wanna use this is busy Boolean parameter to make sure we don't lock the thread and crash the app. So let's as we've seen before, we're always inheriting from a view model base. So let's just move this in our view model base so we can access it in any page that we create. So I'm gonna delete it from here, and I'm gonna delete it from here as well. And in our view model base, we're gonna set a new Boolean variable is busy, and we'll also define a task where we can always use this. So let me show you how actually. So I'm gonna create a public asynchronous task. So I'm gonna call it safe execute, and it's gonna accept a task as a parameter, and we're gonna call it execute function. And what we'll do is we'll check the is busy variable. So if is busy, then we return. We don't do anything. If not, we set the is busy to true. We do a try catch block. So in here we're gonna await the execute function. So we're just gonna execute our function, and then in the finally we're gonna set the is busy to false. Now every time we want to run a task or a function, now we can just say we need to await safe execute in here, and we can pass in our function, and every time it's just gonna go through this try catch block. Now because we have our execution here, we can use our crashes tracker and just say crashes dot track error and pass in the exception. And this way, when whenever there is a crash, it gets handled automatically by our safe execute function. One extra thing I like to do is, so whenever we're using debug mode, we don't actually want our crashes to get logged. We want our crashes to stop the app so we can see where the issue is. So I'm gonna add here an if debug. We're gonna do a throw, so we want to throw the error. There we go. And no, I'm gonna do a else and then an end F here. There we go. So basically what this does, whenever we're in debug mode at the top, it's gonna throw the error whenever an error occurs. If we're in release mode, it's just gonna track that error and send it in our App Center. I think that's it for now. Did I want to do anything else? Let me think. So we added our actual settings, we added our colors, we added our analytics, we added our crash tracking. I think that's about it for now. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.